It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
My goodness, welcome into this holiday weekend's Watts on Wealth Radio show. We can help you work toward a retirement plan as joyful as the holidays and as secure as Santa's workshop. I'm Ralph Hipp here with the amazing Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation, whom I've had the distinct pleasure of hosting radio for and television too this incredible year. They're also his super knowledgeable elves, Matt Dean and Jeremy Zickafus. Today, we've gift-wrapped a special holiday episode this Sunday. It's called A Christmas Guide to Retirement. And like Santa, our retirees all around the Ozarks need a list, too, for things like income and health care, maybe long-term health care, taxes, and the life in the Ozarks you want to enjoy. We'll hit the essentials and help you check that list twice. We begin by saying, welcome, Barry. Welcome back to the mic. And we have another guest in the studio today.
Ho, ho, ho! Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas! Ho, 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 ho! Hey, Ralph, have you been a good boy this year? Ho, 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 ho.
I would definitely say yes. Definitely yes on that, yeah.
Well, Ralph, I've been checking my list.
Are you seeing anything?
And I'm not sure that that's the column you were in.
Uh-oh.
So, Ralph, you're going to have to up your game. You know, you've got a little bit of time left.
A little bit, yep.
Just a little bit. I'll tell you what, Ralph, there's not much time left, though, between now and the time I'm going to be at Wealth Care in Springfield.
When is that?
In fact, Ralph, tomorrow, Monday, the 22nd day of December, I'm going to be down in Springfield about noontime.
Great.
We're going to be there all afternoon. We're going to be taking pictures with the children. I'm so excited about it. And we're going to be looking at everybody's list. It's not looking too good for you, Ralph, but we're going to make sure. We're going to make sure that those children all fall into the right category. So that's Monday, tomorrow, starting about noon at Wealth Care. Bring your children by and we'll take some pictures of them.
I can't believe it, Barry. So
yeah, it's amazing that
he just made a quick little lap through the building there at Wealth Care Studio. How'd you score that?
You know, listen, we know people. I'm not like Garth Brooks. My friends are in high places, and I know how to get a hold of Santa and get him to show up. And so he's coming to see us tomorrow, Monday afternoon. He'll be here
Very good.
all afternoon, and he's bringing Mrs. Claus with him, and he's bringing one of his elves, and the elf is bringing his camera equipment, and they're going to take pictures of all the little kids with Santa, and there's going to be some activities for the kids to participate in, and cookies, and I don't know what all the things that go with Christmas. So we're pretty excited about it. That's going to be one of our gifts to our clients and to anybody who wants to come. We're delighted to have them come. But today, Ralph, I've got retirement gifts for everybody on the show.
Terrific. I've got a list too, Barry, and on my list, gift number one is longevity, right?
Well, that is what I want to talk about first today on the show, Ralph. I had an interesting week last week. I was actually out in San Diego in a meeting with a doctor who's also an engineer, who's also an entrepreneur, who also founded the X Prize Foundation that gives $10 million, or it gave $10 million to the first privately financed team that could build and fly a 3-passenger vehicle through space the distance of 100 kilometers and do it twice within 2 weeks. That's complicated. Anyway, this guy's name is Peter Diamandis. He works in a space that you and I aren't familiar with, Ralph. You know, he went to MIT, and then he went to Harvard to med school, and then he got a master's degree in aeronautics after that while he was working at the NASA Johnson Space Center. I think that's down in Houston. So this is one of these guys. He's kind of like Elon. In fact, he and Elon are on a first name basis. And last week when I was with him out in San Diego, he told me some really, really, really interesting things. First thing he said, though, was he said, Barry, today we have abilities that our ancestors would actually see as God-like, but we take them all for granted. And I thought about that for a moment. He saw the puzzled look on my face, and what he said was, he said, wait, think about it. He said, you can pick up your phone and click a button and be talking to somebody on the other side of the world, and their face appears in your hand. He said, that's godlike. Now, don't make any mistake. We're not trying to take God out of his position on the throne. His point was that our ancestors would have seen it that way, so that we needed to stop and revel in and appreciate exactly how far we have come. And in his case, he said how far that we're going, because he said, and this part of his conversation was all about longevity. He said, in the next few years, we will double human lifespans. Whoa, that's a big ask. In fact, he said it's already happened in animals, and we're beginning in the next 60 days to do the testing on humans. They've got this thing, Ralph, called age reversal technology. Would you sign up for some of that?
I think so. What did he explain? You can explain what he said in layman's terms. If I use the word layman on this Sunday, what would that mean, Barry? What would that be significant for?
Just think about how much better your knees worked 5 years ago, and how much better your back felt 10 years ago. It's just that concept, literally. And so he said we've got technology that can now reverse age. And that's a part of the testing they're beginning to do. So all your blood work and all the function of your bones and muscles and so forth would go back 5 years, essentially buying you 5 years more. And so in the big picture, he says we're going to double lifespan, but then he paused for a minute and he said, but what if we don't double lifespan? What if we only gain 15 or 20 years? And everybody's like, well, that'd be good. We're all in favor of that. And frankly, that's a lot more believable that we might gain 15 years. I mean, we've gained 15 years in lifespan in the time of my career. So yeah, I could see how that would happen. And then he looked at me and he said, so what are the implications for your clients if we extend their life by 15 years? Whoa, dude, the implications are really big. Because, Ralph, at our practice, we actually do retirement income planning all the way to age 100. And some people push back and say, I don't need to go to 100. I won't live that long. Well, you're right. You won't live that long. According to Peter Diamandis, he says you might live 115 or 120 years. And what if you do? That's the point. So we've got to do long-term planning because you've got longevity potentially coming your way that you weren't expecting. And so Peter's big takeaway from that conversation was all this. He said, it's about to get good, so don't go and do something stupid and get yourself killed before we get all this developed. Because he said, we're developing the things that are significantly going to extend lifespan. And it was a very, very fascinating conversation. Now, a friend of mine who was also in the room with us, immediately engaged him in the God part of that question. And I thought, okay, this is where it gets interesting because this guy's from Harvard and MIT, and he's obviously a scientist. He works at this high level, and, here I am, just a hillbilly who believes in Jesus. How's this all going to work out? And so my friend asked him the God questions and how that all played into it, and he handled it masterfully. What he wound up saying was simply this. He said, go back a century ago, and people were expected to live to be maybe 30 or 40 years old. And it was a dream to live to be 60. Mm-hmm. Well, Ralph, you and I have both passed the dream line,
We have.
And so he said, was it wrong for them to dream to live to be 50 or 60? No, that wasn't wrong for them at all. He said, then why is it wrong for us to think about living instead of to 85, living to 100, or instead of 100, living to 110 or 115? He said, it's natural for men to want to accomplish that. And so that's what we're trying to help facilitate. So it was just really interesting, this whole conversation about longevity. And I wanted to give you the gift of longevity. I can't do that, but I can tell you that it's coming on the word of Peter Diamandis, Dr. Peter Diamandis. And I think that means that all of us are going to have to plan on extending our lifespan further than we anticipated. It means we have to stretch our money, and it's got to go further. And so don't ever want to hear you come in and say, Barry, I don't need to plan to 100. No, you really do. Let's plan to 100. And in some cases, let's plan to 110 or 115 because we sure don't want to get off out there and run out of money 25 years early.
Barry, I just want to take a second here to give a shout out. My goodness, I just love Dick Van Dyke, the West Plains, Missouri native. Dick Van Dyke hit 100 last weekend, so it can be done. And boy, is he something else. And just a shout out to the original DVD, Dick Van Dyke, he is 100.
It's interesting you mentioned West Plains, Ralph, because just last night I had a hit came to me through Facebook from West Plains. One of my old girlfriends, not really a girlfriend, but a young lady I knew. A young lady I knew 44 years ago said, "Hey, we're needing some help in retirement planning potentially. My husband may be ready to do that, and so I'm going to be talking with some West Plains people soon. If Dick Van Dyke listens to the show, we'd be happy to help him. He's already hit that longevity thing because isn't he 100, 101?
He is 100, and I think he could go more. He's always been so active and moving in his acting and film and television career. He's got a book out about keeping on the move. You got to keep moving and keep active, and that's the key to longevity too. And what Dr. Diamandis said too is that's
watching him. Yeah, watching Dick Van Dyke is like watching somebody exercise. When you watch it,
it is.
Yeah, well, he's so gangly, he's got his legs going one way and his arms going another way.
Exactly.
It is an exercise experience for him. So longevity is probably going to happen. That probably means you need to get up this Sunday morning, get up off the couch, put in your earbuds, by the way, as you go for your walk, because you want to listen to the rest of our show here.
Sure.
But get off the couch and go for a walk because you're going to eat enough junk this week to mess up your system. And you might as well get a head start on getting that junk worked out of your system.
But keep moving. Barry's got a gift for you. If you give him a call, it's 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry and talk about your situation. 417 all around the Ozarks, Springfield to Joplin, at 200-3500. And our second gift from Barry on his list is a regret-free retirement, Barry.
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Is that attainable?
I think it is.
Can we do that?
Wouldn't it be wonderful if somebody hand that to you? Can you imagine at your wedding, somebody says, "I want to hand you a regret-free marriage." Well, we'd all take that. How about when your baby comes wrapped in a regret-free blanket? I promise as a parent, you're going to be regret-free. Well, we all know that doesn't happen. We've all got regrets, things that we would at least have done differently if we were given the opportunity to. And so one of the things I think we want to pursue is making sure that our retirement is as regret-free as possible. And 60% of people who do retire say that they would do it differently if they could do it all over again. So that means that most people have some regrets about retirement. And one of those regrets that comes up is the idea that they didn't save earlier to build a bigger nest egg. In fact, 85% of people said that they had not planned adequately for inflation or for stock market volatility. And you can plan for all of those things. I love it, Ralph, when somebody comes in and we lay out a plan for them, taking all their numbers, their situation, we lay out a plan for them. And in the end, what it tells us is that not only can they get to age 100, maybe further, but they're going to die at age 100 with X million dollars, whatever that happens to be. And all of that's because they started saving earlier, they built a bigger nest egg, and they've got enough sources that would allow them, sources of income that allow them to not be worried about that. So if that's something you're concerned about, I would suggest you get on it sooner instead of later. And that's what we help people with here at the Wealth Care Corporation. We would love to talk with you. We'd love to help you. There's no charge or cost when we do that because we don't know for sure that we can help you. But if you'll come see us, and at this point in the year, of course, it's going to be next year probably before we get it scheduled, but you better get it on the calendar because somebody else will get your spot. We will sit down with you there at the start of the next year, a perfect time to be doing it in the beginning of 2026 in the new year. And we will determine whether or not you're going to have enough money to retire, whether you'll be able to retire. And then we'll talk in a few moments about how to know when it's time to retire.
That's right. Right now, though, it's time for a quick break on The Barry Show, Watts on Wealth, the radio show. I'm Ralph Hipp, along with Barry Watts. Delighted you're with us this holiday weekend. And we'll get to that question, how do you know, especially in 2026, when it's time to retire? We'll get to that question and answer it right after this.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Again, it's VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
Welcome back in. You're all dialed in and tuned in to the Barry Watts program, Watts on Wealth, here on the radio on The Talk. And we were getting to Barry's gifts, and our third gift from Barry to you, information on how to know when it's time to retire. Barry, how do we know?
Well, I don't know, Ralph. You're the one who's retired once. Maybe we should let you be the expert on this topic.
Well, I've mentioned a few times I was a TV news guy in Springfield, and I had 3 years. So they had the date. It's written in black and white on your contract when you're leaving.
Oh,
it's right there.
Well, that made it easy, didn't it?
Yeah, it's right there. And then I did, from 3 years, I did 30 years of news in Topeka. And that date was on there. And I said, okay, that's my date. That's my retirement date right there. So I knew written down when you have a contract. And of course, we've also talked about, Barry, you don't want the boss to call you in and say, hey, you know what, we're going to retire you. So, we don't want them to decide. We want you to decide and help Barry work your way through that. So other than that, with me being news and contracts and deals and all that's negotiations, how do we know when it's time to hang it up?
Well, Ralph, let me ask this question. How old were you when you retired? I forgot.
68 and a half.
So you were 68 and a half. Well, it might interest you to know that the data that we have says in 2023,
right,
that a person who retired, the average person was 62 years old when they retired in 2023. But if you roll back about 30 years to 1991, the average age at which a person retired was age 57. So retirement age, this is the age at which people really do it, has climbed about 5 years in 30 years. And for you all who maybe are in your 20s today or 30s, 30 years from now, it may have climbed another 5 years, which means you won't be retiring until you're in your late 60s. That's where Ralph actually retired. And I will retire in my late 60s or early 70s. We're continuing to do the work. But the reason, or I think we should ask the question, well, why are people retiring later? What's caused that? Well, I want to give you some reasons potentially to think about. First of all, it could be just the cost of living, because if you had $1 in 1991, by 2025, you had to have $2.46 to buy what $1 would buy in 1991. So the cost of living has risen exponentially. 146% more than it was in 1991. So you got to be making more than twice as much money just to keep pace. Thank goodness I am. But I think one of the second reasons that people may be choosing to retire later is just this idea that life expectancy has increased. In fact, since 1991, life expectancy longevity has increased about 3 years for men and about 2 years for women. So, every 30 years, if you get an extra 3 years added on, if you go over 90 years, that's 3 30-year periods of time. That means people are going to live an extra 10 years longer at least. And the point is those extra years, which come to us because of better health care, because we take better care of ourselves, we maybe eat better foods, we get better medicine. All of those years that come to us must be funded. And since that cost is 146% more than it was 30 years ago, well, that's something we have to think about. And then from there, Ralph, I think one of the reasons that maybe we're a little bit reluctant to step away if we don't have a contract that forces it on us is because work really is kind of the scaffolding for our lives. In American society, work really defines who we are. What's the first question we ask when we meet somebody new? What do you do? So there's a professor at Touro University named Luis Primavera, and he just had a quote that I found that I thought was really interesting. He said, "When you're retired, you're a was." Now, that may not be true, Ralph, because you're not you're still the host of Watts on Wealth on TV and radio. So you've still got that fame going for you.
Got it going on. Oh yeah.
Do a lot of people notice you when
almost 72 now.
Yeah, so you still got something happening. When you go out to the mall, do a lot of people notice your restaurants? Do they notice you and say hi?
They do. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah,
and that's kind of. I bet at this point, having been off of TV for the most part, except you host my show, I'm guessing that it probably feels pretty good to be noticed and recognized.
It does, and we always said, Barry, when that stops, then you need to be asking some questions of yourself about whether it's time to retire. But I have had people go, when I was retired from the news, I've had people go, I watch you on the news every night. I said, well, that's a trick because I ain't been on it for 3 years.
So, oh, no, that happens all the time.
They know you, but they don't know exactly where they saw you, but they know us on Watts on Wealth. And we've been on already several times this morning on TV in Springfield, right? We've been on
I think 2 or 3 times already on television.
Oh, yeah. It's great.
So when the time comes that you hang it up, one of the rough parts about that, Ralph, is just the end of work reminds us that the end of everything else is coming. And I, at this age, in my 60s, I began to think about those things a little more. I mean, I've been thinking about that from a spiritual perspective for a long, long time. I think it's important you get ready for that because eternity is a long time. And by the way, if you don't believe in Jesus and the work he did on the cross, you don't believe in what the Christmas season is really all about, eternity is a long time to be wrong. So you might want to think about that.
Especially this time of the year.
Yeah, exactly. It is a perfect time to bring it into place. So, Ralph, when we're thinking about this idea of retiring and whether we retired too early, well, T. Rowe Price did a little study. And what they discovered is 20% of retirees have already returned back to work part-time, and another 7% of retirees want to go back to work. And those numbers are very consistent with what we see out of people here in Southwest Missouri. I would say when people retire, about a quarter of them wind up going back to work. And when the question is, well, why do they go back to work? Well, 45% of them say they do it for social and emotional benefits. They just miss their work partners and the rhythm of life and so forth. But about 48% of them say they're doing it for financial reasons. So my suggestion is if you had done your financial planning properly, and we'll help you with that at WealthCare, if you had dialed your retirement plan in early enough and accurately enough, and that's an important concept, and a lot of people who call themselves financial advisors don't know how to accurately dial that in and consider the taxes and all those sorts of things. But if you get that dialed in, well, then it takes away one of the reasons that might force you back to work. So if that interests you, Ralph, they could call us. And what is the phone number they call us at, Ralph?
Well, it's 417-200-3500. Don't get 007 on me here, but 200-3500, 417 is the area code to dial and reach Barry. Yeah.
And just leave a message there. Says, heard Barry on the radio, and we'll talk about retirement planning. We'll set you up to have a conversation with one of our advisors. One of the things we talk with clients about when they come to see us, Ralph, is when they're preparing to retire, we say, well, I understand what you're retiring from, but what are you retiring to? Tell me what you're retiring to.
Exactly. Yeah.
What are you going to do in retirement? And, when you retired at 68, you didn't even know me yet. So you couldn't say, well, I'm going to go host Barry's show, Watts on Wealth. Took us a while to find each other. So some interesting data comes out on that. I've got a friend who's a friend of Coach K. Do you know Mike Krzyzewski? He was the coach at the Duke.
Sure do. Yeah. Of course, the courts, they called it the Coach K court. They couldn't put Krzyzewski all the way. It'd be too many letters.
Because the Krzyzewski is spelled Kurzieski or something.
Yeah, it's painted. Coach K court is painted on their basketball court. Yeah.
So a friend of mine, Jim Bowman, actually is, he's my age, but he's thinking about retiring, and he happens to be a friend of Coach K's. And so he was telling me about this conversation he got in with Coach K about succession planning and how to exit your business and all these kind of things. And one of the things, Coach K, this is the coach who retired from Duke, super winning basketball coach.
Right.
Coach K said to him, Jim, you've got to know your purpose. You've got to know your purpose. You've got to know what you're retiring to, because otherwise sitting on the couch will kill you. Now, and we didn't want to retire to die. That wasn't really our goal. So I know what some of you are retiring to is you're retiring to grandchildren. And wouldn't that be exciting? If Madison and Zach are listening to the show here, Dad said, wouldn't that be exciting if he had some grandchildren?
Hint, hint, hint. And I got to tell you, Barry, Christmas, there's nothing like Christmas with those grandbabies.
I wouldn't know. Quit rubbing it in, Ralph.
Okay.
Quit rubbing it in. You're hurting me, man.
Just having you look ahead, buddy. Yeah.
So
it's going to be great.
I know that some of you are like, I'm going to retire and take care of grandchildren, and more power to you. What a wonderful, wonderful thing. I think it's interesting. Such a phenomenon at this stage of life where your eyes just start focusing on little children, and you realize the biggest thing you did in life was create those kids and raise them, and you just want the opportunity to do it again. And everything else pales in significance. But you may not get the opportunity. We have a lot of clients who don't have grandchildren, or it may be a while. So you got to decide what activities are you going to pursue. Maybe you're going to pursue pickleball, or maybe you're going to do volunteer work, or you're going to exercise, get yourself in better shape. Maybe you have not paid appropriate attention to spiritual matters. And maybe one of the things you're going to do in retirement is you're going to read your Bible and learn what it really says, and learn what this Christmas season is all about. That could be a good investment of time. So anyway, Ralph, those are just some little tips there about determining whether to know whether you should retire right now or not, how to know when it's time to retire.
Yeah. Barry, when you said that, one of my resolutions, which of course now I can start, I thought about, I want to really go through the Bible from Genesis all the way to the end. But I think over the Christmas season, I'll get back to it. I want to start with the New Testament and go through that again and really read the story and do that. That's one of my resolutions, which I'm starting before the new year.
Well,
friends, and I'll keep you posted on that. Friends, if you'd like to get with Barry, have a chat face-to-face with the amazing Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Once again, his number is 417-200-3500. We especially welcome our new friends listening in Joplin and all of our loyal fans in Springfield. Barry's book is also called Watts on Wealth, and when you meet with Barry, you can get a signed copy, can't you, Barry? Would that fit in a stocking, too? Would it fit in a stocking?
Well, it depends on how big your stocking is, of course. But,
The amount,
the amount of knowledge that's in that book, you better get the extra large one, because there's a lot of wisdom in the book.
And that is another book that I'm reading cover to cover again this year. You know, we're going through Barry's gifts, and what I want you to do, I want you to stay with us here. We're going to take a break for the news and be back in a moment. Stay with us, and we'll talk about what not to do with gift number 4 on Barry's list when we come back right after this.
Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts Wealth Care Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500 KIT.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back in. It's our Christmas show with Barry Watts, the main man of the Wealth Care Corporation. I'm Ralph Hipp, the former News Team 33 anchorman, and now my proud title of host of Barry Watts TV and radio shows. Hope you saw us on all the Springfield channels, here and there and everywhere this morning, and our radio show right here on The Talk. We're here same time, same station. This is our only radio appearance, if we call it an appearance together, our radio program together, and glad you're with us. Barry and I are going over his gift list, and there's some amazing special gifts.
Hey, Ralph, I want to give you another gift.
What's that?
I've got another gift. Before the break, you mentioned that you had a goal to read through the Bible. And I just wanted to offer to you, and I'll be happy to send this to you, or to anybody else who wanted it. My friend, Dr. John Marshall, who was for many years the pastor here at Second Baptist Church in Springfield, John has basically it's a Bible reading plan that tells you how to schedule your Bible reading in what order and in what months so you can get done with it. I will try to find that and send that to you. And anybody else who wants it, just call us and say, I want the Bible reading plan from Dr. Marshall, and I will send it out to you. I don't have his permission, but I'm pretty sure it'd be okay for us to do that.
He's a very forgiving
That's just a little extra gift from Ralph or for Ralph, and we'll say it's a gift from Dr. Marshall, and he doesn't even know he gave it away. How about that?
How about that? We really, really need to be reading our Bibles these days, so that'll give me a plan, Barry. It's good to have a plan, isn't it? Hey, you can get yours going, Barry's 6 Steps to Retirement Confidence, and get it started giving a call right away. See if we can get you in before the end of the year, maybe 2026, but that number for Barry, 417-200-3500. All right, I also mentioned before the break, our to-do list is to continue listening to the rest of the show. And gift number 4, Barry, is what not to do. What do we not do, especially this new year?
Yeah, these are the things not to do, if you want a successful retirement. I'm reminded of that song that I hear played sometimes that says, I think this is a Garth Brooks song too, maybe. It says, some of God's greatest gift are unanswered prayers. I didn't sing that very well. You see why I haven't quit my day job yet, but
they'll already know. They'll already know.
Prayers. So there are certain things that not to do. There are certain things you didn't get that are better for you. So I'm going to give you some lessons on what to do under the umbrella of 5 traits of Americans who can't retire. The first American who can't retire is the one who spends more than they make. Ralph, did you know that 65% of people live paycheck to paycheck?
2 out of 3.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, that's too much.
We all started there. But boy, that's a painful place to be. And doesn't it feel a lot better to not be living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah. And with, we talk about who can afford anything right now. Can they afford it, or they're on the other side of the scales? No, I can't. I have to choose between food or medicine. I can't do both. Stuff like that.
What a horrible
bad situation.
You know, Ralph, I'm not interested in running for office. I never will be, but I'm interested in solving problems. And I would think if you were in those power positions, to be able to step in to the degree that they can influence pricing, obviously that's different, but to be able to step into those kind of problems and either solve them or provide moral suasion to the culture that would help them shift. Man, that is what the real reward from being a governor or a president or a congressman like Burleson or whatever it is. I would just love to be in that particular place. The next thing that causes people to not be able to retire, Ralph, is they have too much debt that is weighing them down. And if you're having to make debt payments, pay on your credit cards, well, that's money you can't enjoy living on because you did the enjoyment back before you had the money. And now that you got the money, you're having to pay for what you did. That means you can't enjoy it today because you're having to pay for what you did. It's a vicious cycle. So one of the indicators that tells you you've got a debt problem is if you are paying the minimum amount on your credit card each month, and that's all you pay is the minimum. In fact, one of the indicators is if you're paying a minimum plus $25, because that's not going to get you dug out of the hole fast enough. So, Dave Ramsey says, he used to say, I assume he says this still, he used to either say you cut up your credit card, or if you were responsible, he said you take your credit card and you freeze it in a bowl of ice, so that if you're tempted to use it, you have to wait on the ice to thaw out, and maybe the desire will have passed. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, you will have changed your mind. That's good. I like that.
The other thing, though, Ralph, is if you're putting small purchases on your credit card, all of us use plastic for everything these days, but whether you're paying it off or not. If you have to buy your groceries on your credit card, if you have to, if going to Silver Dollar City, which is kind of expensive sometimes, if that has to be on a credit card and you have to finance it, then you shouldn't have gone to Silver Dollar City. So some people can't retire because debt is weighing them down. One of the reasons that some people can't retire is because they will have to rely totally on Social Security for retirement, and it is not sufficient. 35% of people told a Gallup poll survey that Social Security was going to be the major source of their retirement income. And the problem is Social Security was intended to be a supplement, not the major component of your retirement income. So if you're overly dependent on Social Security because you just haven't done your planning, then that's a problem. This morning I had breakfast with a young man in his 30s who is not saving and who did not want to save in conventional ways through retirement plans because he wanted access to his funds. And I'm like, no, it's the wrong way to think about it. You got to get that out of your brain. And you've got to put money away for a rainy day, because if you don't wake up until you're 55 and decide to do that, you can't ever catch up in his 30s. He'll still be able to put enough away to kind of take care of himself. And that brings us to another important concept about why people can't retire, and it is simply insufficient savings. So I would start by asking this question. Do you have an emergency fund? Now, we say your emergency fund should be 6 months worth of living expenses. So if your family lives on $100,000 a year, you need to have $50,000 sitting in probably a money market account or somewhere like that. And you use that for emergencies because they come. This week, my wife has had the heating and air conditioning people at our house working on the furnace. She has had the washer dryer people at our house working on the washer and dryer. And I don't know who else has been there, but I bet there's somebody. So these things are going to come up, and you need to be sure that you've got emergency money set aside. And then you also need to be sure that you are, after that, funding your 401k up to the amount that your employer will match at least. You know, a lot of 401k plans, you put in $1 and they'll put in $1. That's 100% interest. Wow, that's pretty good. Think about this. If you put in $1 and you didn't get the match, you didn't get the other dollar, how long would it take you to earn the other dollar? Well, at 5%, it would take you 20 years to earn the other dollar. So if you've got a 401k where you put in $1 and they put in $1, I'd suggest you be putting your dollar in.
Wow.
And you want to fund it up to at least the amount they will match. Nothing wrong with going beyond that, but we have some better strategies to go beyond that in most cases. For example, one of those is, do you qualify for an IRA? Because not everybody does. Now, if you're not covered by a 401k at work, the answer is you qualify for an IRA. But if you are covered by a 401k at work, then there are limits. And the limits to determine whether you qualify for an IRA look like this. Your modified adjusted gross income, if you're single, has to be less than $79,000, or if you're married, less than $126,000. And then you can still qualify for that IRA, and you can put money into it and deduct it if you use the traditional side of the IRA. Married people, well, if you're making more than $89,000, more than $146,000, then no, you do not qualify, assuming you're covered. And so you cannot fund the IRA itself. So then when you do contribute to an IRA, here's a couple of things to consider. I would suggest that you not try to get the tax benefit from it. In fact, I think you should use the Roth IRA, where you put after-tax money in. You've already paid the taxes on it, but the money all goes into the Roth IRA, and you'll never have to pay taxes on it again. And this year, you can put $7,000 into a Roth IRA or an IRA account, whichever, and you're in good shape. If you're over 50 years old, you can add an extra $1,000 to that. The good news is next year, in 2026, it goes to $7,500. Plus, if you're over 50, you can use a catch-up provision that would allow you to put another $1,100 in. So I would encourage you to be doing that. And you could do it not only for yourself, but you could do it for your spouse. Well, there's the opportunity to save north of $15,000 right there. You ought to be funding that. You really ought to be doing that. Which all brings me down to the final thing that gets in the way of people being able to retire, Ralph, and I'm going to call that unrealistic expectations. The simple fact is it takes hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to be able to retire successfully. $75,000 in savings won't do it. The reason I bring that up is because we have people show up once in a while. They've read my book, they heard our show, they liked our show, they came to a class I was teaching or something, and they walk in and they've got $49,000. Or they've got $74,000 or whatever, $125,000. Dude, you don't have enough money to do it. It's not going to work. I can already tell you. It's just not going to work. Now, maybe you have a big pension on top of a decent Social Security check, and that part is going to work if you've got those two things. But most people don't have the pension. They just have the Social Security. And so what you need to be able to figure that out is you need a retirement income plan, and that's what we help people to get at the Wealth Care Corporation. We sit down and we say, how much is it going to take for you to live? Well, X dollars. And how much are you getting from Social Security? Well, Y dollars. And so therefore, how much do you need to take out of your investments? That'd be Z dollars. Now, do you have enough investments to fund Z dollars from now until the time you die? And remember, with Peter Diamandis, it's going to be longer than you think. He's going to double your lifespan, or at least
he's
add
working
15 or
on
20
it.
years.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you have to expect correctly. And Ralph, we have people who live on a couple of $1,000 a month, and we have people who live on $25,000 a month. And I just have to tell you, given the choice, I would take $25,000 a month, because that makes life just a lot more smooth, and I think a lot more fun. It doesn't make it necessarily better, certainly in all other ways. Money is not the source of all good things, but money sure helps to smooth the path. And if you don't believe me, try a little time without it. I hope that's not your case this Christmas season.
Right. Yes, indeed. So, friends, to get started, hey, 2026, I'm going to start on the 6 steps to retirement confidence from Barry Watts. To get that going, listen to what Barry's telling us. We have one more gift to get to in just a moment here, our final gift for you from Barry. But the first thing, his gift, is his time. His time is priceless, and that first call that you make, the free call, the free first meeting, gets started at 417-200-3500. That's the Wealth Care Corporation, J. Barry Watts, 417-200-3500. In a moment, Barry's 5th gift, it's how to retire better, and some great information from Barry on that right after you listen to this.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through Wealthcare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' Wealth Care Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
As promised, as we were going to the break, Barry's gift number 5. We've had some marvelous gifts that Barry has shared information on with you. Hope this has been extremely helpful to you. And Barry, number 5 is how to retire better. How do we do that?
Well, and that is what I want to teach you, how to retire better. Is it bad to be better? I don't think so. In fact, I think it's good to be better. Would you like to be better at what you do?
Who wouldn't want to be better?
Hey, gentlemen, would you like to be a better lover? Your wife would like for you to be. Just thought I would throw that out.
See a show of hands here. Come on, guys, raise your hands. There you go. Yeah,
ladies, would you like to be a better cook? Your husband would like for you to be. I'll tell you that. And so that's an important thing for you to pay some attention to. So, in this idea of how to retire better, there are some people that I've run into who are giving us some suggestions on how to make that happen. Jim Pilsner is 78 years old. He is retired now. And what he says, having done it, is he says, well, there's only so much golf to play, and there's only so many times you can go to lunch. So he wishes that he'd done something different. And what he says he wishes he had done is set some goals for himself. In fact, he said, I would counsel my younger self and any other active achieving person to recognize what drives them and what success really means. He likes learning and taking action, so much so, in fact, that Jim has started back to school. And he's got a 4.0 GPA at the University of Nevada, where he is going to get an undergraduate degree in political science and history. And he's getting this degree when he's 78 years old because learning is just that important to him.
Isn't that fantastic?
So,
that's great.
Yes. And so I think it's important that you plan and that you have a process that you're wanting to pursue. One of the things that Jim said about it is he said, we planned on how to spend our money in retirement, but we didn't plan how we were going to spend our time. And so that's what Coach K was saying. Have a purpose, a plan for how you're going to spend your time. One of the things we've discovered is that some people, they like to retire earlier, and their advice was, retire early. But some people said, no, late. And then some people gave us a little tip for whenever you retire. So let's talk about early and late. There's a guy named Jay Holt over in Cincinnati, New York. He was a polo player, of all things. And he retired kind of early in his early 60s, and he fell while playing polo, fell off his horse, I guess. I'm not sure the exact story, but he had to give up playing polo. So he wishes he'd retired earlier so he'd had more early years to play polo. My suggestion might have been his retirement was perfect, but he should have held on to his horse. Sometime, Ralph, you'll have to ask about the time when Kelly fell off the horse out at Wilson's Creek battlefield. We were all riding together as a family, and she's riding this draft horse that's slow as mud. And the draft horse went left and Kelly went right. And Kelly's story is she got thrown off the horse. And the whole family boo-hoos and carries on when she tells that story. And they say, Mom, you fell off. So shout out to my beloved one, Kel. I know you think you got bucked off of Molly, but you really just fell off. So
because I've seen her and she looked like she was in great shape. So thank goodness for that. Yeah.
So Jay Holt, he fell off the horse and that messed him up. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, in Idlewild, California, is Dan Roberts. Dan wishes that he had kept up with his colleagues while he was retiring, both personally and professionally. And the reason that he wishes that is because 18 months after he retired, his kids moved off to New Zealand and took the grandkids with them. Oh, I'd think I'd shoot him for that. My goodness. And his wife must be thinking about it.
Flight. And you know about long flights, but that's a long flight.
And there was the problem. They could only afford to go see the grandkids twice a year. And so his wife says, we miss our grandchildren terribly. So they wish that they had more relationships and more friendships to absorb this hole that the grandkids left when the grandkids left. And that needs to be fixed. So retire earlier might be a good idea. Be sure you've got some relationships in place when you retire and don't let them move off on you. Your friends are going to die on you anyway, doggone them. But some people say, no, I want to retire later. Alan Parmenter out in Providence, Rhode Island. He says, I wish I'd have worked a few more years. What Alan did is he retired at 65 and he took his Social Security. Now, every month, because he wasn't full retirement age, Alan is paying a penalty. He's getting less in Social Security than he would have gotten if he'd waited until full retirement age, which for most of us now at this point is age 67. So not only would his check be bigger, but if he'd worked that extra 2 or 3 years longer, he would have more money in his 401k, more money to draw down on. Maybe that's money that the wife could have used to go to see the grandkids. I mixed up my gentleman there, but you understand the point. Mm-hmm. It's never a bad thing to have more money. And so Ralph, those are just some tips, some things to think about how to retire better. And one of the things that I think would be helpful to most people is just to be sure you've retired with a solid plan. And what helps you to know whether or not you've truly saved enough and you have a solid plan is what we call a retirement income plan. And that's what we do for people at the Wealth Care Corporation. When we sit down with you, we ask a lot of questions because we're trying to understand your situation. How much money do you have in investments? And are they in the right investments so that you're protected from down markets and you don't get hurt when the stock market goes south? But are you also invested in such a way that your investments will grow to maintain pace with inflation? Because you got to keep up with that rising cost of living. And so we put all of this into a process, and this particular step in the process, the income step, results in the production of what we call a retirement income plan that will show you every year, here's what your income will be this year. Here's how Social Security comes in. Here's how much it's grown from the previous year. Here's how your pension comes in if you have one. Here's how much it's grown from the previous year. Mm-hmm. Here's how much you have to take out of your investments, and look at your investment accounts. Are they going down or are they going up over time? And so a retirement income plan helps you to know not only how much you'll receive in income, but how much tax you will pay every year. And those two things together are extremely important in helping you to know, do you have enough money to retire and stay retired until age 100? And that is our particular goal in helping people to retire better.
So if we had a top 5 list like David Letterman used to do, the top 5, his gifts for you this holiday season, which we've talked about on the show. Number 1 was longevity. Remember Dr. Peter Diamandis, the MD engineer, where we could maybe live to 120. And gift number 2 is that regret-free retirement, that 60% of retirees said they'd plan their retirement differently if they could do it all over again. His third gift was how to know when it's time to retire. So when is it time to retire and get into the plan and have it work for you? Number 4, we mentioned what not to do and not spending more than you make. And then that gift number 5 that we talked about with Barry, how to retire better. So Barry can get with you and talk about all of that. Barry, in our remaining few minutes here, I'd love to get to more of our questions from our listeners. And first of all, though, how do retirees know if they've saved enough to maintain their lifestyle? You know, when they say, I want to retire better and I don't want to spend more than what I make, the retirement income plan, anything else you'd like to mention about it? There's no other way, is there?
No, Ralph, you have to have a retirement income plan prepared. And most people don't have that. Most people are they think it's a retirement income plan because somebody looked at them and calculated some numbers and showed them the green path or whatever and said, yeah, it looks like you can do it. Everything will be okay. Well, did they show you each year what your income will be? Each year what your expenses will be? Each year how inflation affects those expenses? Each year what your taxes will be? All of that should be spelled out so you can just chart your path along the way, know what your progress is, and you'll know whether or not you're keeping up like you should be. And then when we meet with our clients every year for what we call a strategy and tactics review, one of the things we're doing is we're comparing their path where they ought to be to where they are and making sure they're staying on path. That's the only way you can know whether you've got enough to be able to retire and stay that way.
It's complicated, but it's really as simple as that. And getting started with Barry at 417-200-3500. All right, here's another question from Mary, which at this time of the year, I love that Mary has sent us in a question. That's appropriate. And her modern day question is, well, the sign-up period's over, Barry. I've reviewed my Medicare options, but my concern extends to long-term care. With rising healthcare costs, how do I integrate that long-term care planning like LTC insurance or the health savings accounts, the HSAs, into my wealth preservation strategy without, liquidating my key assets here?
Well, Mary, thanks for asking, by the way, and thanks for listening to the show. We've got some tools that deal with long-term care issues. Most people, if they don't already have long-term care insurance, can't buy long-term care insurance. So what I would suggest is that you look into one of these other tools and whether they will work. I personally use a LIRP plan, which is an insurance-type product. That has some chronic illness benefits built into it that will pay. In my case, my policy will pay something in the neighborhood of $300,000 a year for me to go into a nursing home or for me to get care at my home. And since my wife is a nurse, my preference would be to get my care at my home. And so, if you got $300,000 a year, you can buy a lot of good care. Now, not everybody's plan will pay that much, but your plan might pay $70,000 or $80,000 or $90,000 a year. That happens a lot. And if we set one of those up, then you could have enough income between that and Social Security to pay for all of your long-term care. We have another approach that we use that I think is really interesting that is a guaranteed issue, by the way. They guarantee that they will issue this policy so your health can't get in the way. And depending on your health rating, and they determine that by actually just interviewing you, you don't have to go to the doctor or anything like that. You just answer some questions. The health rating will either cause you to be at a premium or at a standard or at an inferior rating. And the way it works is however much money you put in, the amount of money you deposit. If you have the premium rating, the best rating, whatsoever, well, the amount of money you put in, they guarantee that they will immediately pay you 3 times that much back when you go into a long-term care situation.
All right. Mm-hmm.
If it's not a premium rating, maybe they'll only pay you 2 times. Or if you actually have a substandard rating, they may pay you only 1.5 times. But that's a really good tool for covering some long-term care expense when people don't have any other method of doing so.
Barry, I hope you and Kelly and Madison and Shelby and Zach and the whole family have a wonderful Christmas.
Oh, we're holiday. Planning to, Ralph. I can hardly wait.
Oh, and come join us again next time. If you have some time over the holidays, we'd love to have you join Barry and me for the radio show and on television on all the Springfield channels. This is Ralph Hipp, jingle belling all the way for Barry Watts and the whole team. Thanks for joining us.
Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
WealthCare Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.